Hey there! Welcome to Songsmith 101. This is my fireside Q&A. First of all, thanks to everybody who submitted questions. We pulled down a whole bunch of them from Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and so forth. So I'm going to do my very best to answer them for you. I noticed a lot of people asked, how I was doing, post eye surgery and all that kind of stuff. And I just want to say thanks for all the kind words and the concern and the support and all that. It's just very touched to know that. Eye surgery went great. I can see better than I've been able to see in my whole life. So feel very fortunate and very blessed. Thank you for all the thoughts and the prayers and all that stuff. A lot of people also asked whether I was working on a new album, and the answer to that is I don't really know. I'm really trying to avoid thinking about something so daunting, which can seem so daunting. That is, I'm really just enjoying just the fundamentals of just having songs I've written and focusing on going downstairs and getting a good, natural, honest performance of those songs. If that turns into an album later, great. But we'll see. So y'all bear with me, and I'll let you know how that process unfolds. Other people asked when I was going to go back out on the road again, and the answer to that is another. I don't know exactly when. I'm definitely going to go back out on the road sometime. Hopefully, the second half of the year. But the first goal this year was to get on the other side of the eye surgery, recuperate from that, enjoy the time at home, focus on music, and so far all that's been going great. So the next step's going to be figuring out when I want to go back on the road, how I want to go back out on the road, and all that stuff. So again, stay tuned, and we'll let you know. My favorite songs to play live are always the ones that are the most new, especially ones that have never been heard before. There's just something very exhilarating about that. I've noticed that as I've released some of these songs, like Cellophane, for example, I have played them live a few times, and it's always kind of risky to play a song that people have never heard live. Sometimes they just completely check out. People live like to hear stuff they can sing along to. But when it's right to grab people with words they've never heard before, and everybody kind of being in that moment, listening to the song for the first time, there's just something very special about that, and I can usually tell whether or not I've written a very compelling song based on that reaction, those first times I play it live in front of people that have never heard it before. So yeah, there's not one particular song, but typically whatever's the newest and the freshest is what I enjoy playing live the most. My wife's least favorite song is probably Fuck the Popo. Yes. In fact, the first time she heard that, this is a quote, she said, "God, I hope you never play that in front of anybody." As far as her favorite song, I'm not sure. I'm really not sure. Is that an answer? I'd have to ask her. She'll be here in a little bit, maybe I'll ask her. I think the first time I realized that the music was sort of taking on a life of its own and moving people was the first time I played in Dahlonega, Georgia. Many years ago, I was still teaching school. At the time, going up and playing in Dahlonega, that was like going on the road. It was an hour away. But there was a club there called Buster's back in the day. Very small, but the first time I played there, I didn't know what to expect. I brought in my own PA, set up the PA. There were probably 150 people that showed up, and I started playing In Love With A Memory, which is the first song on my first album. And when I did, everybody started singing along, every word of it. And it just blew my mind to be away from home and in a place like that and have people already know me and the music. And I thought, wow, this is different. As far as what it feels like to be on stage, it's taken getting used to. I mean, it's obviously it's really awesome. It's very rewarding when you feel a crowd come together and knowing that the music's impacting them. I mean, I would use the term like, yeah, that's what it's all about, and it is in a way, but it's also something that was I never really expected it, and I don't think it's not really the goal for me. It's just sort of like icing on the cake, I guess, or gravy. But it's pretty awesome. And the larger the crowd, the bigger the venue, the more powerful the feeling is. Do I miss teaching? No, not now, because it's been so long ago. I don't remember a whole lot about what it felt like. I will say in the first few years after I left teaching, I did, especially at the beginning of a school year. I missed that excitement. But yeah, it seems like a different lifetime ago. So no, I don't necessarily miss getting up really early, especially. The turning point that made me decide to pursue music full time, I can point to a particular date. I don't remember the exact date, but it was in December of 2005. My first show at the Georgia Theater sold out in advance. I was still teaching school at the time. It was just mind-blowing that the show sold out, and I made more money in that one night than I would have made in 2 or 3 months teaching. And at that point, married, already had our first kid. Music wasn't a risk anymore. It was always the fear of letting down the family, not being able to pay the bills. That's what kept me from doing it full time. So once the math added up, it was no longer a risk anymore. Now at that point, it seemed more risky for me not to pursue music full time. So that was it. I went to school. The next week, I talked to the principal and the department head. I explained to them what was going on. They were completely supportive. I talked to my students, and some of them were really bummed out because they felt like I was bailing on them. But for the most part, they understood and supported me and felt really good. So haven't looked back. Eat. That's I do love to eat. That's to me one of my favorite parts about traveling is you get to have unique food and unique restaurants. It's a good way to kind of get to know the town or the city you're in, go have some of the local cuisine. Damn, it sounds bad, that's about it. No, I mean, I used to be out and about a lot more, but frankly, as my vision got a lot worse over the past few years, I quit doing that. So maybe whenever I go back out on tour again, I'll be out and about more like I used to be, and going and checking out the sites, going to museums and stuff like that. The majority of mainstream country music does drive me nuts. Yes, I don't like the conformity that's there. I don't like that one would think that there would be more diversity among the artists, that you would find more that were radically different from one another, but you don't. To me, there are a few that stand out, like your Chris Stapletons or your Eric Churches, but one would even argue, is Chris Stapleton mainstream country? I don't think so. He's very successful, but I wouldn't put that music into that category. Does that answer the question? Eric Church definitely mainstream country, but definitely different. I can tell when one of his songs comes on. I can tell it's him before he even sings anything. So that says a lot. To me, that's different. What I don't like is just there's so much that seems to be copies, like copies of copies of copies of copies. Like if you take a Xerox a copy of something and then you Xerox it over and over and over, eventually it becomes more dull and obscure, and then you don't even know what the hell you're looking at. That's what I feel a lot about a lot of mainstream country music. It's completely forgettable. When will I become a Gator fan?
Yeah.
Hell freezing over? Does that do it? That doesn't mean I don't ever pull for the Gators. I'll pull for the Gators in the right moments. Never against a Bulldog. When the time is right, if the Gators are playing a non-SEC team, I'll cheer for the Gators. Not passionately, but I'll be like, yeah. The story behind If I Could Do It Again. When I was a kid, literally went down to Panama City in the back of a Mazda pickup truck with my friends, with my guitar, and we actually had to spend part of that trip underneath a tarp because it rained on us. It was the kind of thing I wouldn't do now, but at the time it seemed like a great idea. It was a lot of fun. If I could do it again, it Yeah, mostly true. I do tell people that it's not all about me, and the way you can tell the difference is anything that sounds like it was cool, it probably wasn't about me, it's probably about one of my friends. But yes, for the most part, it's true. And I wrote that before I had kids, and didn't have any kind of like thought about what that would be like later to have to explain that kind of stuff to my kids. And the truth is now I do regret how stupid I was when I was a kid. I think it was reckless and dangerous, and lucky that none of us didn't get hurt. When you get to a point with any instrument, if you feel like you're stuck, if you feel like you're up against a ceiling that you can't get through, it becomes frustrating and you want to put it down. You're like, I can't do anything else. This is beyond my abilities or whatever. It's easy to get stuck and get bored. For me, whenever I feel like that, I get a book, and go through exercises, learn something new. I've got a jazz book that I've had for probably 15, 20 years, that I've never been able to make it all the way through. But whenever I get stuck, I'll pick up a book like that, start working on some of the exercises that are way outside of what I would normally do. But something about that just kind of loosens me up, and I'll be able to find new ideas and kind of makes me fresh again. So I would say, try something that's way outside of your comfort zone. Did I add the $42,000 Martin to my collection? That's a resounding no. Especially since I'm not touring right now. I'm kind of unemployed. So yeah, that's plus my kids are getting older. About to have to think about buying my kids cars and shit like that. So no $42,000 Martin for me. Chad from space. I bet this is Chad Dubé from my guitar class. I'm not sure though, because I'm not looking at that particular profile right now, but I'm willing to bet that. And yes, in guitar class I did stress the importance of chords and chord progressions. Yeah, go North Gwinnett Bulldogs, by the way. My favorite song that I've written. I don't really know. I don't know. Similar to the other question about what's my favorite one to play live, it's usually ones that are either I'm in the process of writing or I've just written. They just feel different. So maybe the best answer is my favorite song I've written hasn't been written yet. It'll be probably the next one that I write will be my favorite one. Overall though, thank you so much for all the kind words and the encouragement I've been receiving on the social media, especially about the new music, all the new songs and stuff. Very cool. Look forward to doing a lot more of this kind of stuff. So if you haven't already, please subscribe to the YouTube channel, and I hope to see y'all again next time.